Right, I think we're live. Yeah, we are live and ready to go. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 27 of the Blob Watch. And tonight, we are joined with a regular, Joss. How are you doing, sir?
Evening. I've been working pretty much solid since the weekend, so I'm quite tired and also a little bit drunk, so it should be entertaining.
Yes, and well, as I say to you regularly, stay off the stock market for God's sake.
No.
You've been investing in Dogecoin again.
I have like 50 quid of Dogecoin, but my GameStop is my bag. Me and the boys got in there in kind of late January.
Yeah, I was too late for that. I was too late for that rocket. And of course, we got a special guest here, co-host, host of the Lotus Eaters, known as Secretary of Akkad, but I guess more commonly known now as Callum, as your real name. I guess now I think that's. Are you still referred to as Secretary of Akkad widely?
Well, I mean, when I started working for Carl, I was just his secretary. That was all. So I mean, that was the purpose of the name. Pretty simple. Like, if you want him, I'm his secretary. But yeah, mostly just my name now.
Okay, I don't want to be accused of dead naming. No dead naming here. Yeah, so thank you, gentlemen, for joining this evening. And so I just want to say hello to the usual people in chat, like Mergut and Dylan as well, and Rory Herbert and El Nino, usual chaps that we have on the stream, on Discord, and what have you. So thank you for tuning in. So tonight, I was going to sort of cover three stories which has, I guess, been dominating around the Conservative Party this week, and looking at the Conservative response, doing a bit more, critical analysis of how Conservatives in the party interact with such stories, or with such events like Stonewall or like Liz Truss, and what we have going on there, like how they defend her, or in this case, I've seen very little defense from her position. So that's what we're going to be looking at, and ultimately it's going to be a bit of a critical analysis. We're going to compare and compare them to Labour and how they are able to back each other up even from like the most sort of centre left to the extreme left. They don't tend to throw each other under the bus, I would say, compared to the Conservatives. I've noticed that there are certain members. We'll also go on to Tom Harwood, because I think
I can see you posting Tom Harwood tweets in the chat, and my eyes started twitching.
Yeah, I actually Callum just posted in the chat here, and Tom Harwood, and I just, as soon as I saw the message pop up, I knew it was Tom Harwood, because oh my god, that guy! I've blocked him on Twitter because I just, there are, I know that people like to group him with Darren Grimes. I'm going to start the bat here. I think Darren Grimes genuinely cares and is genuinely sincere about what he believes in, or what he claims to believe in. I don't think he is subversive in any way. I don't think he's trying to undermine. And there was actually, I do recommend people to watch the Starkey interview that he did about a month ago now on the New Culture Forum, where he put some things to rest about Darren throwing him under the bus, because there was actually a bit more wider context to that, revolving around him talking to Darren and telling him that he understands why they're coming after him and everything, and that what his response should be. So there was a lot of things going on, but because I know there's been a lot of criticism, I've criticised him for how he treated Starkey, but I think compared Darren to Tom Harwood, I don't think that's a fair assessment. I think Tom is, he's in there to cause chaos. He's like, it wouldn't surprise me if he actually works for the Blair Institute, if I'm absolutely honest.
I mean, he could just be really, really stupid.
No, I don't think he's stupid. I think he's malicious. I've met too many young conservatives to know between the dolts and the vipers. I know too many of them, and he is a nasty little viper. But anyway, to get on, we've got the first story here. So, Joz, you said that you've been out of the loop for a bit. So, are you aware of what's happened with? Are you aware what month this is? That's a good segue into. Do you know what month it is?
It's June, actually. Funnily enough,
that's the old calendar. We don't use those words anymore.
Oh no, we're being replaced.
It's also the start of a Christian holiday, hence why I've got my nice little Christian symbol at the top right corner here.
I was going to ask about that. Who is that? I'm a filthy.
That is, I believe it is. I think it's one of the Saint. I think it's like Saint Mark or something. Because of course we are a devout Christian channel here. So
it's a Christian Minecraft server. Yes.
Yeah, it's a Christian Minecraft server.
No swearing, then I guess.
I just for all the atheists out there, I have to do this for the American audience. I'm sorry. It's just how the market works at the moment. So anyway, the Conservative Party have released a like they usually do, a celebrating Pride Month. We celebrate the positive contributions made to the UK every day by LGBT plus community. Happy Pride Month. Now it didn't.
Congratulations, Conservatives. Much conservatism.
It didn't go down well in some quarter.
I mean, does it ever? I always see it getting ratioed on Twitter.
And they got ratioed. But they didn't just get ratioed. Well, they got ratioed from the Lotus Eaters, rightfully deserved.
Nice job, boys. You're doing your part.
Yeah. I just want to say that, I mean, I don't... Okay, I'm going to go words about getting in trouble. You can bully the Conservative Party because you bully the central office. That's how you do them. You'd be horrible to them, and also horrible to certain, individuals within the party who are just genuinely enemies, hostile.
If your representatives are crap, then tell them they're crap.
It's such a weak thing, though, isn't it? Like calling it bullying. Like, it's just look at the Conservative Party and be like, be conservative. That's the bullying. You saying to the Conservative Party, do conservative things. Stop being Labour.
Yes. It goes back to what I said. Doesn't matter how much pandering you do to the Guardian, they will never vote for you. And that is just the end of it. If your belief is that this X voter in the southeast, metropolitan southeast, is the way that you believe you can hold on to power, then you are really not paying attention, guys. You're really not paying attention. You're not paying attention with the red wall seats. And I actually am shocked of how many activists, most of them I will say are from the London Conservative associations, genuinely believe that the red wall voter is socially to the left and economically to the left. On the economics point, they are quite correct that there is mountains of data to suggest that, but on the social issues, that is completely it is completely fantasy. It is complete. I mean, I don't understand how you can be that out of touch. It is almost like Labour Party style of out of touch when it comes to how they view the new voters. And
They're not people I've ever interacted before.
Well, they're not. But I don't know who. Well, who the hell? I mean, that's the thing. It's like, who the hell do they interact with? I mean, this is
people
the thing.
In London.
Well, it's the Westminster Village is what they're stuck in. And so then you come to the conclusion is the Conservatives aren't winning because of the amazing policies or because of international trends towards populist localism. I won't say the other word, the other naughty word, but populist localism. But in the UK, it doesn't seem to have. It doesn't seem to be organic, and what you have is you have a situation where the Conservative Party will say the right things when the time comes, but then when they get a bit of pushback, it's like they just completely cave. And I genuinely think, and I've said this before, they really need to mentally upgrade themselves to this current decade. They are still stuck in the early sort of 2000s mentality where they are in opposition and Blair is has a thumping great majority over them and they're just stuck in the political wilderness, and they need to get their heads out their backsides and wake up to what's going on. And what's going on is putting this out. You're signaling to the people that hate you, and then the people who are meant to vote for you or have voted for you or you should aim for to vote for you are pissed off and say on podcasts, what the fuck are you act like fucking Conservatives. So
I mean, what's weird is I just googled the Conservative Twitter account, and it turns out that's not even the worst one. Like, look at the link I just sent in there, and load that.
Yeah, I know. I know which one I think I know which one you've brought up as well.
LGBT History Month. What?
Yeah, it is. I mean, this is the thing.
I thought it was Pride Month. I'm confused now.
No, it's also February. So apparently, Black History Month has been deported, and now we have just LGBT History Month.
They seem to have. We seem to celebrate the American one and the British one because aren't they different months or different times of the year?
I don't even know, but
it's like Mother's Day or something that is different in America and the UK. So you see it and you start panicking.
So what's Black Mystery Month here? Is it October or something, or what?
I don't fucking know. It just turns up every so often, and I'm like, oh god, here we go again.
I despair, and people are wondering. Okay, the ultimate question here, and I think what Callum, you just said, and what Carl's been saying, is why do they do this? Why aren't they acting like Conservatives? Why? I mean, evidently the ratio on this, and this a lot of it, like you got Calvin Robinson there at the bottom, who he is while he's I don't think he's a member of the party at the moment. He is a Conservative. He's not a reactionary type. He is, if you on the political chart, he is a Conservative. He identifies as a Conservative with Conservative values in the English context, at least. And he is dead against this. So why is this happening? And the reason is and this is the unfortunate thing, is the Conservative Party was demoralised for such a long time, and the restructuring of the party in the Blair era, when they were out of power and they had they were effectively where Labour Party are at the moment. And what you had was centralised control of party HQ office, which was in London, which was very different because it used to be, if you wanted to become a Conservative MP or councillor, you would have to go through the local party association and they would choose you. So if you were some parachuted candidate, and this happened quite a lot, you had in some areas of the country they wouldn't allow you in that seat. There would be a strong active local force to stop that sort of behaviour happening. And then that went by the by. So if I wanted to become a candidate, apply to become an MP, I'd have to go up to London. No matter where I am in the country, I'd have to go up to London, to HQ, to be interviewed by central office board, made up of whoever's available at the time, and they vet you, and then they vet you on that, and then you then you ask yourself, it sort of answers the question of why you have so many low caliber.
It's interesting that I found, if ever you watch something like Prime Minister's Questions or see debates or interviews or whatever, it's so obvious that the Conservative higher-ups are so much sort of better educated and more like verbally intelligent than the Labour side.
Yes.
But they still seem to fall for the same things.
It's because I think one of the big things, and I think this is where it's a sad reality, is when you look at Blair's era and the cultural revolution and the educational revolution, he managed to outmaneuver British society, British traditions, and to usher in a new age, that you had a situation where conservatism was effectively extinct as or in the English context, conservatism was extinct to such an extent that the only remnants that existed were your Heseltines and your sort of liberal wing of the Conservative Party, which sort of LARP as One Nation Conservatives, or the Deeper Blue, or whatever group they like to refer to themselves as now. You did have holdouts. You had your Tebbit. He was a holdout. He was quite a good one. You have your Philip Davies. There are individual holdouts, but the thing though is, it from that point of the start of the 90s to the end, it was a complete abolition of conservatism within the Conservative Party. So when it came to year 2000, if you were to express any sort of principled conservative views that had been, I'm against identity politics, I'm against promoting LGBT whatever, because number one, it's foreign, it's alien, then you would be labelled as a homophobe. Now, then the Conservative response would be, well, it should be either to yes or yes, so what? Yes, don't care, and that's it. You move on. I mean, they call you a homophobe, a Nazi, and a racist. Who cares?
Yeah, like I for God's sakes, I mean, the issue we're dealing with here is sexuality socialism here. Like, we're going to collectivize different sexualities and pin them against each other. I mean, really, this is what individualism is. This is what liberalism and conservatism is it? Right? Okay. Like, but the thing here, I have to disagree. I think it might just be simpler than that. I mean, CCHQ presumably has a desk in their office with some people who run the social media accounts, and one of them or two of them is good at making graphics. They make the graphics on any given day. And I bet they just get given, oh, hey, it's this thing, it's LGBT History Month, fucking hell, or it's Pride or whatever, and they just make the graphic. And I think they're probably just midwits, like they don't know that
they're university educated midwits.
They probably just think, gay tolerance, that's what conservatism is about, and it's like, yes, but not collectivization of sexual groups, you morons.
Well, this is the thing, because there is. I understand a wing of the party, because this has generally been my attitude in the party when I've been asked about this particular subject. I don't care what two consenting adults do in their own home. Having said that, though, I don't want to see in my shire, up in my local village street, a grown man or two grown men dressed up in fucking Spartacus uniforms with whips and fucking dog day afternoon get-ups and everything, doing all sorts of degenerate acts. That's not what I mean when I say two consenting adults do in their own homes. There are fucking standards which everyone has to apply with. I can't go and fornicate with the local baker's girl in the middle of the street and behave like a filthy degenerate. You guys don't get to do it. I don't care if you're fucking different. I don't care. Yeah, you're different. Everyone's different in their own way. Everyone's individual. We apply individualism, but on this particular thing, when we have standards, when we have laws, we don't have two-tier systems in this country. We have one tier, and I'm. Yeah.
It's one of those things with that one though, where it's obviously kink. It's got nothing to do with the fact that your sexuality.
It's like nothing.
You're in love with men, right? Okay, let's say you're gay. You're in love with men. Fine, okay. Being in love with a person doesn't mean wearing assless chaps in public. No one else does this. That's your kink. That's not your sexuality.
Yeah, and you don't bring children to these fucking kink marches either.
Oh yes, they do.
But that's the thing. Yeah. If you want to involve children in your kink, you're a pedo. Simple as.
Yeah, simple as. And I'm genuinely, I've got a letter that I've sent out to my actually one white pill because I've been very, very hard on the local membership here when it comes to this sort of stuff. The county council has been the only council which I've seen, which is Somerset County Council, which hasn't put the fucking rainbow flag on their social media or even raised it at the council building. And the leader of the council messaged me to say, yeah, we're not doing it. We don't do it down here. So I say, yes, good. Well done. Good. Nice. You've done a good one. I'm
impressed.
And so I'm actually really impressed because we have a lot of Lib Dems and other shitheads around here. So I'm just, yeah. I'm surprised that that's happened, but I'm very pleased it's happened. And so, what does History Month even mean?
I don't know. I don't even know who's made this up. Like this is clearly February, which is traditionally Black History Month in progressive circles, anyway.
Traditionally, as in like the past 5 years. I love how.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's all so modern.
But the whole, LGBT plus History Month. I mean, for starters, the plus. So that includes everyone now. That's the folly of the plus.
Does it include paedophiles?
Yeah, this is Paedophile History Month. Thank you, conservatives. I'm a conservative. I'm sorry, it's just so pathetic.
That's right, I'm a conservative.
Yeah, well, think about the plus. They had LGBT, and then it was Q, and then I, and then A. And then everyone realized, yeah, this is dumb. Although you should have realized that at the start, and just went with the plus. And it's like, right, if you just add plus, that means you can, unionize any other group into this acronym. All of them, literally all of them. Which is why you end up with pedophiles trying to say, oh yeah, we're sexuality too, we're included. And it's like, no. They are not getting in on this. You're not sexuality, you're a goddamn pedo. Get in the wood chipper.
Hey, party members, you're not going to win over the Pakistani vote. Just stop it. Stop it now.
So just like, who wants to win over the pedo vote? Like, what's that about?
Party.
Fuck's sake. And this is the thing. And this is what's really funny is they are midwits. They just don't know this. And when you explain it to them, there's usually two reactions. Either they are shocked and horrified because they just didn't think about it because...
Well, it's everywhere. Why would you think about it? It's like questioning...
It's just gay tolerance.
Well, it's like questioning, the Bible or something in 1700.
Yeah.
It's that pervasive.
Is that... Or the other response is self-denial and you're some, Alex Jones far-right conspiracy theorist nutjob, which I've had today from a Facebook group. And it was like...
Oh, you're going to say, which I am.
Which I am. Yes. Well, I'm sorry about that, but, Alex Jones... he's been right about more things than most commentators that I've seen on the news lately.
Yes, let's have rather than the Alex Jones was right jar, I think we're going to need Alex Jones's right bath or swimming pool or something.
Well, I was going to say, if you wanted an alternative for this, let's say you're working at CCHQ and you're listening to this, like a little subversive or something, and you wanted to put something up for
goddamn hero
Pride Month or something, right? You don't put LGBT. You don't use any of these collectivist words. Like you post, tolerance of homosexuality by country, and you see Britain at the top or top 5, and you celebrate that. You don't celebrate this Labour collectivism.
No, it is this is, as Callum mentioned, this is sexual socialism, just like Black Lives Matter is racial socialism. Racial Marxism. It is exactly the same thing. And ultimately, if you concede on this point, and this may not seem important, and if there are Conservative members here who have just happened upon this stream, or this has been recommended to you guys, or whatever, and you think that we're being hyperbolical, that we're being over dramatic with this, and that it's not why should we care? Why is it that someone like Liz Truss, who does the bare basic of saying that to an NGO who is throwing around wacky accusations and she's removing them, she's been having pretty horrendous harassment. Like literally, imagine if the roles were reversed and it was Labour and it was Dawn Butler who...
Oh, imagine if the roles were reversed.
Imagine the roles were reversed. But imagine if this was Dawn Butler and she had the amount of... Because we saw that... we know about this poll that was done, right? That Dawn Butler did.
Oh god, that was hilarious! I did see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to get it up?
That was so funny.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's turned into Liz Truss has been having a shit ton of abuse. She's been hounded. The Conservative Party has been hounded, but the language being used by the likes of Owen Jones and Labour has been, from their own standards. If you remember during the Brexit debates and everything after the Brexit thing, the language is violent. They've been using very militant, military, violent language. This is war. This is battle. This is action. This sort of the same people who, when during the Brexit debate, when Boris, when the Attorney General, whose name I forget at the moment, who was the former Attorney General, when they used really emotive, very powerful, very strong language, they were hounded in the press for being overly aggressive to these, Labour MPs, overly aggressive, using very militant, ruining the politics and debates and everything else. And just look at what's going on now, and ask yourself the question: like, why does this matter? If this, why does it matter that Stonewall isn't in government departments? Why does it matter? Why is there such a almighty backlash against this? Why does Owen Jones care so much that Stonewall's not in a Conservative government, in departments run by Conservatives? Why does he care so much? He shouldn't give a damn. He should be focusing on getting the Conservatives out of power, surely. You need to start...
Well, I mean, it's not even like that. It's got something to do with getting the Conservatives out of power, because like how many voters, like, is it enough voters to switch the 80 seats or whatever that they have that hinge on having Stonewall in their Conservative Party, like, headquarters?
Well, there is no evidence to suggest that doing any of this will garner a single vote, or even hold on to a single vote. There are people, I mean, quite frankly, as hundreds of YouGov and Ashcroft and all the other pollsters have shown before, political positions have hardened up over over decades. If you vote Labour now at the moment, you are most likely going to vote Labour, and you're probably a raging SJW lunatic, and you're not going to be voting Conservative.
I mean, especially to vote Labour in 2021, right? I know, obviously, current year, but Christ, like, what position do you have to be in? Like, what level of delusion do you have to have?
I just want to draw your attention. So you mentioned the poll. So I put it in the chat there. That's the second link. But she's doing it again, the moron.
Everyone, go into your part.
So so the poll was, who do you trust? Liz Truss, Stonewall. Liz Truss obviously won. She's done it again with, who do you trust? Boris Johnson or the doctors? It's like, well, how do you think this is going to go?
I guess I have to.
Who does she mean by the doctors? I mean, that's actually significantly harder.
Well, which doctors? Like the doctor that's in prison for murdering, hundreds of women? That doctor? Which doctor, Dawn?
But either way, I'm just here to mess up Dawn Butler's head. She's like, why do people keep voting Boris Johnson? Because he's not you.
I mean, like obviously, looking at the thing, who do you trust more, Liz Truss or Stonewall? Obviously, you can honestly say Liz Truss and it would still annoy her. Whereas if you here, like you kind of have to choose the one that would annoy you more, but would not annoy her more. But I don't think I trust Boris Johnson more than the average doctor.
And so with Liz Truss, now actually, I will say one of my local MPs, neighbouring MPs, Dr. Liam Fox, he did come out and support her, but again, it's the rational the rational reasoning behind why he supported the move, and it's not because of any deep-rooted ideological commitment of collectivism is wrong. Controversial statement, guys, and that it shouldn't be exercised in a conservative government. It shouldn't. It just shouldn't exist. This sort of stuff should be day one gone. And if the civil servants are blocking you, if they are making the government's life unbearable to such an extent that they just will not budge, that they're so culturally ingrained in this Marxist nonsense, you get rid of them. It would be tough. It would be very it could be damaging politically for the average members of the public, but in the long term it would be the best decision to make, and it probably would put back if we want to call it the progressive march through the institutions, it probably would put them back a bit if you really did purge the civil service, like really purge, not like
that's what Cummings was suggesting from the very beginning. Well, that was his whole thing.
That's what you do, because for anyone who, because I know the people here, for anyone who has read Machiavelli's The Prince, one of the biggest rules is when you take over the kingdom or the duchy, as you refers to it, you have to get rid of the old regime. You can't allow them to linger, because how can you know that your life is safe? How you know they're not going to take you out? That's the ultimate thing. And again, what we've got, and we've had, this is not new even. This has been 10 years. So this under coalition, this under Theresa May's government, and Cameron and May, and now under Boris, you've got ideologically loyal Blairites in power, and along with Blairite created institutions like Supreme Court and what have you. So the question is, what do you do? Because you can't trust them. They're not going to work with you. That's the only way to get rid of them. You must get rid of them, or you will end up like the Republican Party. Because remember, what happened with Trump in America. He got a very bad advisor who happened to be married into the family, who was, I guess you could say, a contributing factor to his demise. There's other contributing factors, but he surrounded himself still with Obama era people. He surrounded himself with the Rhino element, and he had his position was very weak. And then of course we had the election and everything else that went on after it, and it was a crushing defeat.
I think you have to be careful comparing the British Conservatives and the American.
I'm saying that at the moment they're in two different positions. The British Conservatives are realpolitik for a moment. They are on the ground dominating because there's just nobody else. But the Republicans in America are, they are fighting back at the moment, and they're having a bit of comeback successes. I think they're going to do very well in the midterms. But at the moment, there are several things which they've allowed to happen. They allow, and what I'm saying is, when you allow enemy combatants, your enemy, to run your administration, via like the civil service or what have you, don't be surprised when you find yourself out of power that you will not be able to regain power, because we know what I don't know, Callum. I don't know what your view on the US election is. I've covered the results and everything of that, and I know some people disagree with me, and there's people in the chat who disagree with me on this, but I do think that there was a large, consistent effort made to make sure that Trump would never be re-elected, to the point that I genuinely think that the fortifications was made to such an extent that there would be no chance he would be ever re-elected, regardless of what happens, or what happened, I should say.
It's very dangerous talk there, my boy.
I know, that's why that sounds like a bit of an excuse for murdering Tsar Nicholas and his family. I mean, this is the thing. You have to be, Rory, with it. A realist. If you were a Bolshevik, if I was a Bolshevik, right? If I was a full-on communist, I would murder the Tsar and his family. Okay, now. Because if I wanted to, because he was a very key figure and an icon in the counter-revolutionary movements that went on the ground there.
It wasn't called Tsarist Russia for nothing.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like that's the key. It's the same if you were a French revolutionary. I mean, of course, the natural logical step was to, execute the French royal family. Because why wouldn't you? Do you want them to be running around the country?
If you come at the king, you don't miss, right? That's fairly obvious.
Yeah. So, as I said, this has been the sort of general response is no place for them to give their recent attitude and behaviour. And while I agree with that, because just remind, what was their recent attitude and behaviour? If I remember correctly, it was something to do with transgender. It was something about a row with transgenderism or something. Let's have a look.
Well, fundamentally, it's always the same thing. Liz Truss says women are women. Stonewall says no. And then Stonewall says if you criticize us, you're an anti-Semite.
That was it. The anti-Semite. I didn't
into anti-Semitism.
Criticizing the gay organization is criticizing Jews.
Yeah, they said it was akin to anti-Semitism to have the belief that women are women. I was like, right, okay, so you guys are lunatics.
I was going to say that kind of betrays more what I think about this sort of thing than anyone else is.
Yeah. What's
the political situation been, Shy Tory? Because you probably know better than me. I know you noticed that Liam Fox here is coming out in favour of her. Have any Conservatives come out against her, or is it a lot in favour of her, or what?
I've had a look at the usual suspects. So people, and maybe Callum, you can use this for lotus eaters when you want to find some really disgusting wet Tories.
Please tell me more.
Yeah, so
I am interested.
Your number one person to go to is Tobias Ellwood. He is the most disgusting of them all. He's an absolute gross figure. I've had a look. Actually, let's just have a look at Tobias Ellwood, see what he's said recently. Because if he was to say anything, he would be the one to say it. He's the MP for Bournemouth East. They're talking about cryptocurrency. It's a bit weird.
Nothing wrong with a bit of cryptocurrency.
Here's something with Liz Truss.
Okay. Yeah, he's Okay, so your Ministry of Defence is retweeting.
No, he doesn't seem to have said anything about Liz Truss or Stonewall, from what I can find.
No. But this is the thing, because I think one thing I've noticed with this is that largely when it comes to these sorts of topics, and very culture war topics like this, because for Conservatives, you have to understand that the transgender debate is quite deep culture war stuff, and very few will touch it. Very few will even talk about it because they fear the wrath of I guess you could say that what's been commonly coined as the cathedral, so like the media and the groupthink within the media, because as that's an accepted truth. And if you have any sort of diverging view on this,
but I mean, to keep in mind, they're scared of the people that don't vote for them.
They're scared of the people they don't vote for them. I also notice, and I think this is worth saying, I've noticed with the Conservatives that they've been more fearful since last year. And I think one thing that I mean, I can only talk on the local level. When we saw that the Colston statue come down in Bristol, and that mob, and the police allowing that mob to do what they did, and the media celebrate it, local government in Bristol, which is Labour, Lib Dem, Green controlled, and celebrate it. I think that frightened a lot of members, because a lot of Conservatives, you'll find a lot of historian sort of experts, very much like historical autists in certain fields. And we have one here who's like very much on board, like the European revolutions of like the French Revolution, the Revolution of 1848. They know where mob mentality leads to. They know what can happen. And I think what frightened them was that such a thing could happen in this country. It could happen so quickly. And also, they tear down statues. What's the next logical step after that? They target people. And that is the next logical step.
Well, that's what's happening in America, right?
And that's what's happening in America. And I spent a good part of last year showing what was happening in America, that this is what the left is doing. And I had to explain to a lot of them is the left aren't arguing at the dispatch box. They're not arguing in debating halls. They have decided to use violent revolutionary tactics to get in your face and would cause you harm in a mob mentality, because and that's what they are fully aware of that, and that's what they're really frightened of. And they think that if they can feed the beast and stuff like that it could calm it, or you can do appeasing. And this is a thing you can't. And I explained this to the Police and Crime Commissioner candidate, who's the Conservative one, who I was sort of involved with his campaign, and he won on this. And I had to the one thing I did, which was a suggestion from someone on Discord, is I just sent him the audio, an audio copy of the audio book that I had, and I just sat down with him and over like the sort of regional meeting with Andy No's Antifa Unmasked, when we were talking about Bristol and the Antifa thing that goes on there, because Antifa have a very big presence in Bristol. And I explained to him, this is what they do. They're not a bunch of smelly hippies who are unorganized. They are very well connected. They have ties to banks. They have ties to NGO groups operating across multiple countries. They have enormous ties. This is the power that they garner.
It's so hard to convince people of that. Speaking from experience, you have to have all the information in the right place. Like just saying it out loud like that.
Yes,
not convince people. They're like, what the hell are you talking about?
Well, what convinced him was Andy No's book. I know.
Yeah. I really need to read that at some point.
It did convince him, because, and what's good is that when you have Conservatives who've worked in, say, policing or the military, it's really easy to convince them when you actually present that with them, because number one, they've spent most of their time in the real world, so that's easy, because it's like that's one bit.
I was going to say it's very useful having politicians who've worked.
They're not academically minded midwits who believe anything, because academics are ultimately clueless idiots and should be disregarded at every turn. But ultimately, they will. They're very they have a very sort of deep critical thought with this. They will, if you present them with evidence, or if you present them with information which can correlate with the situation on the ground, like with Bristol, like with their tactics. Because I mean, look, if you think about the recent violence that was in Bristol, they used the Antifa there. They used tactics that they used in Portland. They targeted the police station. They barricaded both exits in the main road. They smashed up cars parked in the multi-story car park, which was used by NHS workers. These people actively copied the tactics that was on the ground. And I just, by the way, I just want to say to everyone, Oh-wine is here. Sorry, Oh-wine, I didn't see you. I was on the roll. How are you, sir?
Hello, evening. Hello, I'm here. Yes.
All right for you.
Shemai, Shalaiti, Dwiawn. There we are.
Hello.
I'm speaking Welsh. How are we, AI, Callum and Jaws?
How you doing, man?
All right. I'm listening
I'm good,
to AI going off on one.
We're going.
I heard he mentioned Antifa in Bristol.
Antifa in Bristol, that is right.
And their how to be a radical youth clubs they have in Stokescroft.
Yeah, and how they have like nursery groups as well for
So
the parents.
By the way, if I could suggest something for the Lotus Eaters, Callum, you should probably look into the People's Republic of Stokescroft as a little op-ed, because that's a little radicalization little factory they got going on down there.
It's quite scary when you look at it.
Yeah.
What is this? Was this like a pub they've taken over, or
No? Stokescroft in Bristol is basically its own commune and has been functioning as its own commune for a long time.
It's a parish, like like a parish that you have, and it's a single road, and it is. Let's find some images actually.
Well, there's a website. If you,
I'm looking at it right now. There's loads of like memorials on the side. Let's say paintings and then graffiti.
So it's dressed up. The People's Republic of Stokescroft is dressed up as a kind of it began as like an artistic organization for like street art and stuff, but then eventually has evolved into kind of a front for Antifa.
Always does.
And it's kind of being used to. They have like workshops for youth radicalization, youth activism. And they whenever you see something like a big giant sign in Bristol talking about some progressive cause, it's usually to do with them. It's something actually quite. I think it's something that needs to be looked into more, to be honest, because it's a very dodgy organization. Because they actually started riots a few years back about Tesco. Tesco tried to move into Stokescroft, and they started the Tesco riots.
Are they co-opting the pirate flag?
Yeah, they have. Okay,
right.
Yeah, that's the Antifa symbol for Bristol.
Yeah,
like weirdly, I remember seeing those stickers in Reading as well.
Yeah, we have them down here sometimes.
Am I completely making this up that Reading has some sort of problems with that as well?
Yeah, it does. So, I'll send you a link. Actually, it's quite funny. They took over a pub, and I've gone down there. It's a shit.
Yes.
I lived in the belly of the beast for a while. I did live in Stokescroft, and they literally, it is.
I'm actually.
It's exactly how I expect it, and they have a school of activism, as you can see.
I see. Oh-wine. Shall I do like Shall I enroll myself and do like undercover filming?
You're not gonna. They're gonna catch you, AI.
You're too large and too posh.
They're not. They're gonna catch you quite quickly. I managed to get away with it because I'm Welsh, and they immediately think I'm a Welsh nationalist.
We need someone who could identify as an ethnic minority and is also a man.
We could send in Zen.
All right. Enough for that, please, Jaws.
We can send in Zen.
Zen would work.
Yeah,
Cringe would work as well. We could send Cringe in.
Didn't what's he called? Stephen Crowder's friend.
Not Gay Jared.
Yeah, he did that for a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, he went undercover in Antifa. Yeah,
because he's a skinny weed.
But this is school of activism. So what they do is because I've seen them at work in Bristol. They do very good community outreach. So they don't just sort of hang around in Stokescroft. They go all over the city. And they do target a lot of the universities, like Clifton area. I've seen them as far up around there, and they will target students. They'll target a lot of young families, all sorts of people. And what they will do is they will get them to enroll into these sort of things, but also get the children as well into like a nursery thing where they have. I guess you indoctrination classes. So here
not to be conspiracy here. Yeah, there you go. Philosophy for children.
Philosophy for children. Oh my god!
There you go. Philosophy for children. That's the classes that they have.
Class power.
What are they saying?
Develop their ability to
think and reason.
Why can they never indoctrinate adults?
Am I right in saying that in this case that they basically run it as a creche while the parents do sort of activism training of their own?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you have the usual sort of
class power on 0 hours.
They're just
literally School of Activism 2.0 curriculum. Does that tell you everything you need to know about what they're trying to do to the curriculum in this country?
Who's streets, anarchy symbols.
Yeah, and the sort of history of it as well. And again, they target a lot of young children.
Is that a drag kid in the pink dress?
So we got Rebel story time for kids.
Oh my god.
Rebel story time for kids. I have not seen that one.
A classic story session for children across.
Is that a little girl?
Yeah.
A classic story reading session for children across 2 mornings. Lisa and Sue will be reading a story of social justice or rebellion to fire the imagination. After the reading, there will be a creative challenge. I bet it will be a creative challenge.
There we are.
Drawing your favorite character.
Literally indoctrination camps. I do admire the badger though.
God, look at that girl.
Yeah, not sure she's a fan.
Yes, so this is Bristol 2021, ladies and gents.
Yeah,
but then on the other side of Bristol, you have Jacob Rees-Mogg literally being in the MP.
Yeah, that's out in the more rural bits. Yeah, but yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, so. What was it? The Conservative response. Oh-wine, have you seen any Conservative MPs? What has been the general response with Liz Truss with them?
A general response to what?
Her removing Stonewall from government.
I haven't seen. To be honest with you, I haven't seen much of a response. To be honest, I
haven't seen any.
When the Tories act, they act as a party. You know this as well as I do.
Yeah, they act, and I haven't seen them say like I've looked at the most disgusting Tory MPs like Tobias Ellwood and co, and I have not seen anything to suggest that there is open move. There's no like. Anyone trying to sort of remove them, like backpedaling.
No one. Well, here's the thing about the Tory party. AI right now, there is no opposition within the party, yet alone against the party. The opposition is currently. The opposition to the Cameron government is currently in charge again. Now they were the more free move, the more free trade lot, the more the Adam Smith Institute lot. So you're talking about your Rabs and your Patels. Who have taken over the party now? Because other than Johnson, there was that young group of MPs who worked for the London School of Economics. Was it?
Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean shit because they just do what the party says anyway.
Well, yeah, they do what the party says socially, but economically, there has been a battle for the past like over 20 years.
Sure.
Economic policy, because there's the anti-Osborne lot. A lot of people didn't like what Osborne did in the party. Because Osborne was not popular. It
happened regardless.
It happened regardless.
I mean the trouble with being like the economic conservatives is what's happened over the last year with COVID and the furlough and everything else money that went into it. If you're an economic conservative, you've been arguing on that point. Your whole political position has been BTFO'd in 12 months. It is gone. You cannot stand on that platform anymore. It's gone. It's dead.
But the problem with the party is that the whip's too strong.
Yeah.
There
is no point. I mean, I'm not saying there's no point, but opposition within the party is so difficult because they just do what they're told.
But then you have another purpose of the stream is to look at what can be done. So we'll move on to a bit of what can be done.
I'm interested in hearing what Callum thinks of the Conservative Party right now, because he's someone who reports about it has to report about it every day. He's had to report about the baseness and then the blue-pilledness,
the
cringeness of the Tory Party every day, and it must be absolutely frantic trying to going from up to down, up and down, up and down, up and down.
It's like living with a schizophrenic or something. It's like based cringe. It's
yeah. It's like one day you're deplatforming Stonewall, the next day you're promoting Pride. Promoting Pride with like rainbow flags everywhere and talking about how LGBTQ plus to LT ABCDEFG has to
in their defense, like protest, like praising Pride doesn't really mean anything if you're immediately yeeting all the gay activists.
Yeah, well, it's nothing.
It could be a distraction, I guess.
Well, it could be just the Conservatives just doing a massive troll.
Oh, God,
I don't. Yeah, I think that's probably the least.
That's a bit of a long shot.
I know that's a bit of cope from me.
It's a massive AI Shia Tory. Yes.
As
Boris Johnson, there's nothing wrong with being woke. That's just that's a troll, right?
As a classical liberal, there's nothing wrong with a gay conservative or a lesbian conservative. Like David Starkey and.
There's nothing right about a socialist conservative.
No, there's nothing right about a collectivist conservative.
I mean, the conservative position, the party position should be when it comes to LGBT, and I stated this at the beginning of when we missed, but it should be. It doesn't matter what two consenting adults do in the private of their own homes, and the state has no right to interfere in that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, if you wanted to be...
Having said that, though,
I was about to say something else. No.
I was going to say, but the point is, having said that, though, you don't get to walk around in, GIMP and fucking Rocky Horror Show outfits, pissing on each other with kids. And
what's interesting about the way Britain sees sexuality is very similar to the way we see religion. It's like we don't care what religion you practice as long as you do it within the privacy of within your own privacy. So this is like kind of it's actually in a very odd way. It's the same way we see like kind of the burqa and all that sort of stuff is and religious gear and like kind of religious wear. It's like practice it in your own time, but when you're in the public, there is a decorum that everyone as Carl would say, Carl, a standard that we all must adhere to on the when we are in the British public. There's a public standard in this country, and this is why I think naturally that Hindus and Sikhs have done quite well in general have done better at integrating than say Muslims have, because Muslims have their own public standard, whilst Hindus are very happy to practice within their own home, and then when they're out and about wear what we'd consider normal clothing and practice normal culture.
Between the practice and the ideology of it, right? So the practice of being gay and the ideology of being gay, right? They're two very different things. It's sort of especially I was going to say especially nowadays, but to be honest, it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah, and it's something which I think, I mean, from what I can see, because I've been, I'm not going to share it the Facebook stuff because that's on the various.
How can you? Did they rename the? Sorry, AI. Callum's showing the pictures there. I just got a comment on them. Did they rename the pub from the Red Lion?
No, they kept the name Red Lion up there.
Because it makes sense, because they're commies. So why would you not keep it as Red Lion?
Yeah, I suppose so. But they boarded up the windows, as you can see there, put in Anti-Far Solidarity, Reading to Rahimfia.
I guess if they're going to take over somewhere, the red line makes sense.
I do like how they got no Trump and no NATO. They said like they do realise Trump was not NATO's biggest fan, and he even talked about no NATO.
Giving him too much credit.
NATO was set up to fight the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I'm always interested. I think one of the best ways of just dismantling these people is just like by sitting there and just ask them, okay, describe the world you want, and then just let them go on, and then be like, then it just at the end of it, just going, yeah, that is my point.
I want a classless, stateless society.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your opinions on NATO? Oh, I hate it and I can't stand it. What's your opinions on the UN? Oh, I think we should all be one global government. Now tell me.
It's just the what's the meme of the guy who just kind of looks to camera and is like, yeah.
It's like one of those things like Parks and Rec when Ben just looks at the camera and just goes, I don't know, man. It's these people have they conflate so many different things and then completely disregard other things and create these really weird contradictions in their own logic, and it gets on my nerves.
Yeah, but it's all about the feelings of it. It doesn't matter
the feels, man.
The logic makes absolutely it's just irrelevant. Not that we're entirely logical.
But man, Java.
So I mean, yeah, someone just said it looks like a seal just said it looks like a drug den.
But yeah, anyway,
it probably is.
Yeah.
Now, a strategy I've proposed in the past, right? And you lads have heard my strategy here. Is that we need to, and this is what even the Brexit Party is doing now, is buy up pubs and turn them into freedom societies.
Yeah,
it's a bit of a gay name, but
Well, no,
I agree in principle.
You have basically speakers. You have a tour. You buy say, I don't know why. If someone could convince Weatherspoon to do this, he would do it as well.
It's not. I wouldn't have thought it would be particularly you're not exactly maximizing profit there, are you?
The problem is though with all this, and this is the problem with conservatives' thought, and you see this with the Republicans in America as well, is when you see companies go woke and institute race baiting policies or racist policies or ridiculous policies and LGBT flags and everything. It's like, well, okay, the free market companies shouldn't have, government should have regulation or say over companies, so that's why they sort of let them get away with it. And so that's why you see companies go woke and you don't see any real repercussions, even when technically in both countries in America they do break. There have been cases where they've broken the law on civil rights law in some regards in the past. I don't know about this country if there's been any certain instance where they've broken the law.
The law always seems to back up that you can positively discriminate, or
that's the thing. I mean, it's so bad. The positive discrimination is so badly written. The laws behind that so badly written that, and I've seen two people debate this online. Is they both came to the point where you actually have the two loopholes, where one argument saying positive discrimination is illegal under this legislation. And then you have the other where no, it's legal under this legislation, and it's all about interpretation. And it's of course it's up to the judges who interpret how it should be applied and if it is illegal in certain contexts. And that's just it's not good enough because it is legal ultimately, because positive discrimination is you're selecting somebody on a either race or gender attributes than anything else, and then you're excluding others because of that. I mean, what else is there?
I mean, to be fair, I reckon it should be up to a company to exclude whoever the fuck they want.
As I've learned from the Costco days, people discriminate on height. I'm telling you.
Well, actually, I know I do want to get so we'll move on to section 127 of the Communications Act, because that's something I think we need to promote. I think there has to be someone within the party that has to promote this openly to abolish it. But before we get on to that, I just wanted to say that young Master Oh-wine here has had a disgraceful couple of days, haven't you?
I can't remember. Disgraceful?
Yes.
I'm sorry. A man can't entertain his followers.
Yeah.
With drunken rants about how he can't get girls and is short.
Yes.
You just throwing him a shovel to keep digging.
Yeah. Mate, I'm gonna dig through all the way to Australia, mate. You got to when you're at the Earth's core, you got to keep going.
No, okay. So
eventually you're gonna start going up again.
When you hit rock bottom, you got to get your mining equipment out.
You dig through it.
We've been talking about standards all night, Oh-wine, within the party membership, and
have you not seen Tom Harwood?
I will deal with Tom in time, but with you, though, I have to say that your behaviour has caused mass confusion and much delay in response.
I'm sorry, Chairman Shire.
Yeah, so as a punishment, I guess you have to take a penitence and do a bit of volunteering in your local community.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's your penitence. And then for people who didn't know, basically, he got extremely drunk, and then he tried to pick up a girl on Instagram.
Almost got there. Not on Instagram. I tried to give him my Instagram, but COVID cop blocked me.
Yeah. Anyway,
it does happen. Like
what the hell is wrong with you? What are you? Some 15-year-old?
No. I went. Okay.
Instagram.
I went to sit down next to her to give her my Instagram because she asked for it and whatever. And then the guy, a waiter came over and goes, "You can't do that. Go back to your seat, please." And I was like, "COVID literally cock blocked me."
Okay, so,
you should have decked him.
She was a bit ginger as well.
Are you telling me a COVID marshal managed to get over on Oh-wine?
This just gets even worse.
I was very drunk as well, though. So I didn't want to cause a fuss because I'm with a lot of friends. And
as far as I remember, drunk short men are the angriest.
Yeah.
We are. But we're also the nicest.
Challenged him to a duel.
But I'm not. Well, I'm a drunk medium man.
Okay, so again,
no, you're 5'3" as far as I'm concerned.
Double penitence for you then after that revelation.
How tall are you, AI?
Sorry?
How tall are you?
I'm 6'7". You,
Jaws?
5'11".
You, Callum?
I don't know, actually. I'm 5 something, but I don't know what.
If you're 5'8", me and you I gotta have words with these two here.
I know that I'm taller than you, Callum, because I've seen you IRL.
Have we met?
No.
He's turned up.
He's really seen you.
He's watching through the window with binoculars.
Yeah. It was during your I think it was you. I think it was during the Carl's UKIP campaign.
Or did he go down to the Bristol his Bristol kind of seat thing?
Okay, I saw him in Bristol, but then I like at a distance. But then I saw him when he came down to my town, actually, which did surprise me.
I was meant to go to his Bristol talk he was going to do because he did try to do that tour of lectures.
Yeah.
And it got cancelled. I was good.
Yeah. That's as I said, I saw him there, and then he came to my town, so I was like, oh, that's
so I went to a MOG thing instead.
Yes.
I think that.
But no, I've
sorry
seen,
to disappoint you. I wasn't in Bristol for any of Carl's events, so if you did see me, it wasn't me.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I think the first time I heard of you, I think it was I think it was when you went. Was it the Remain March or something, or was that
the Remain March?
There was like a Remain March in London.
There were several.
You went to Tonga and to interview people on the Remain March.
I think
I know you did you must have done the Voldemort March.
I mean, I've got no idea what you're on about.
Oh, I saw Harrion at that one.
You know who the Voldemort is, don't you, Charles?
Oh,
the man who cannot be named.
Yeah.
No, I do not.
Oh, Romin Tobinson.
Tommy Gunn, Robinham. Yes.
Tom Krubenham.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on a fair few of them filming, so you might have run into me there.
Yeah, and I see.
Apparently, AI is fucking massive, so you can't miss him.
Yeah, I see over everybody.
AI is a hell of a cricketer.
I'm a hell of a rugby. I'm a rugby player, mate.
You're a rugby player.
Yeah, I'm a rugby player. So yeah.
Look at you! Lucky.
Yes, and I've ended many Welshmen in my time.
I'll have you now.
Yeah,
Chad Englishman, just stepping on this tiny.
We'll have to have a ruck next time wherever we meet.
Dude, he's like a foot taller than you.
I'm a Welshman. I have a plus 30 bonus.
I don't think that makes up for a foot of height.
Your knees would be cracked, mate.
Have you not seen like Jamie Roberts? Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So anyway, Section 127 of the Communications Act. This is something that those teachers have been putting out there. It's stuff that I guess people in our circle have been putting out there in the signing of the petitions. You've had Lawrence Fox talk about it. You've had I forgot the chat names now. Ensign Robinson with the person who was very nice to you when I interviewed somebody who had been through the media. gauntlet, and I forgot his name now. Sorry about that. There's been people talk about it, and it's something which, of course, has been massively overlooked by the party, and it's been massively overlooked by many people. And that's how we have, or we don't have, free speech over the internet. And what makes it really, really bad is that the legislation in place was never intended for the internet. It was never intended for that particular purpose.
It was telegrams, wasn't it?
It was the reason why, and this came in the 90s for people wondering, it was to stop people phoning up and breathing heavily down the phone. That's what the purpose was it for. And that is
where you didn't get a choice. Someone calls you, there's no choice on your part, phone rings.
And that's reasonable. That is perfectly reasonable legislation to put forward. I mean, I know that there were arguments at the time that you could just extend that to like harassment or laws around harassment and threatening abuse and everything. But the problem was, if you're breathing heavily down the throat, you're not saying anything, and it's quite hard to pin someone down on that. So hence why. But yeah, that was. And then of course,
I don't know, that just sounds like a recipe for state expansion. There, I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I can understand why it was done.
I mean, breathing heavily down the phone at somebody, like, why should that be illegal?
I think
because you can use it to harass someone. So if I kept calling you up and you got really pissed off with this, and I kept being creepy to, I don't know, your girlfriend or you or whatever, endlessly, then, I mean, harassment law is certainly a perfectly easy way to deal with it, I would say. But whatever, they passed it to be grossly offensive. And then this law, as I imagine Shaitor is about to say, just got transferred to the internet, which made no goddamn sense, but no one in the Tony Blair administration cared, I guess.
Yeah, because this was all like before internet was fully accessible. This fully accessible period of the internet. And then, of course, as Callum just said, Blair came in, the internet became a thing that general public would use, and then you had the creation of your MySpaces, and then of course Facebooks and Twitters and what have you. And then you have situations where somebody could recite a poem, which can be considered or have considered to have, what was it, transphobic or some sorts of transphobic statement, or which in coded language basically means a realistic and real point of view. And then you have the police come around and say that what you have said is grossly offensive, and we want you to come down to the station to talk to you. And they turn up. This particular chap, who was a former officer himself, who was working at the time outside in the private sector, they turned up at his work and they brought him down because of a tweet he sent. And I know that the more the famous one was obviously with Count Dankula in Scotland. I won't talk about that because that's Scottish law, and I'm not. Because Scottish law is completely different from English law, and it has been.
I mean, you say that, but I'm not going to say who it was, but there's someone that we know from Twitter who was investigated by the Liverpool police. I think it was Liverpool police, or was it Manchester police? Because she broke in Scottish law, and somebody from her university in Scotland had complained, and that meant that the English police went after her.
Yeah, I mean that's good.
She wasn't arrested or anything. She got a knock at the door and they took her details.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not fully aware if she was like a resident in Scotland or she was resident in England. But yeah, I mean,
the point is that the English police are enforcing Scottish law outside of Scotland.
Well, yeah. But the problem is when it comes through to them, like Great Manchester Police, it just says, X and X person is wanted in connection of X and X, or wants to get details from X and X. But yeah, they are effectively enforcing.
It's not far off getting extradited to Scotland.
Extradite people to Scotland? Build the wall? What are we on about?
Not for breaking Scottish law. Not to avoid that.
Anyway, I think we should speed this up a little bit, because we all agree Section 127, we're all aware of it, makes things grossly offensive, a crime online. It's trash. But the politics of it, I've got some insight on this because I campaigned a lot when Jankula was about this, and I've got the emails still from all the MPs in the list. And the most supportive person I've actually run into ended up being, crap, I've forgotten it, Andrea Leadsom. There we go. She was the most supportive individual. Yeah, but I don't understand, like, how. You guys know better than me. How do you actually go about changing something like this? How do you go about getting an MP to campaign on an issue such as this?
What you do is, I was just going to say on this, and this is something that I would recommend, because first of all, the question is to get an MP or the MPs or the party, or even it to get up to ministerial level. So when it actually becomes of changing minds, there are two things that you need. And effectively, it's obviously a lot of backers, which we've got. So that's one thing. But also, it's who you target. Now, I would say, this is my personal belief from what I've seen how the party operates. Number one, each of the Lotus Eaters viewers and you people in Lotus Eaters and such, you contact councils, local councils, council leaders, because they are extremely powerful, devolved run mayors who are like conservative mayors, that sort of stuff. And then
you become the councillors.
Or you become the councillors, infiltration process. But in a more immediate sense, you contact the foot soldiers of the party, with people within power in the party. You contact local party chairmen, and what you do is then on another side. So if you wanted to go on a more sort of broader side, find a think tank. And I've actually just been looking. There are several think tanks which are, I guess you could say, historically pro-Brexit, populist. They say that they are free speech. So that could be another avenue where you contact them, you organize a... it's important that the think tank that you contact, make sure they have good connection with Conservative Party MPs in the 1922 committee. That's the key. You don't want a think tank which is connected to a couple of randos on the backbenchers who've only been there like a couple of years.
The 1922 committee is the backbenchers. Like the backbenchers have some control of the party.
Backbenchers who aren't in the committee, aren't at the table, who are like randos that have been there for 2 years. You want the real 1922 committee top dogs. That's it's local. It's effectively it is local government avenue is the main one that I would be exploring when it comes to this, because then if you have a whole bunch of councillors and metro mayors and what have you wanting this, and you promote it and you have all your people, followers and what have you, viewers promoting this and pushing for this, it does go, it will become known, and it will be a required stage to push through. And someone just put it through. Burgess Group is one.
Yes, the Burgess Group. Yeah,
Burgess Group is one. I would say you the chap at the Lotus Eaters, contact the Burgess Group.
That's Mark Francois for you. The based Mark Francois is a big one in the Burgess Group.
Yeah, that would be my route, and you will get attention, and it will be pushed. But the important thing is when you do it, it would have to be leading up to conference time, because when you have the membership, depending on what happens, I don't know what's happened with COVID and everything, how they're going to run it, but if you have a point where the Conservative membership is in one pace at the one time, and you have all the important people there, if you get to go along to that, it's very opportunistic moments to push and to do events and speeches on that, because then you can sow the seeds.
Can I now say?
Yeah, you go ahead.
My point is a big part of the Tory party, the big part of the how the Tory party thinks is often how the media is pushing it. So if you can get the Telegraph, a Telegraph columnist, or a Times columnist to make a good op-ed, and then you get that around to MPs will start thinking that way, because they'll see that as publicly acceptable. The Tory party is all about public acceptability. I think a lot of people are starting to understand that currently, with Labour in the way they are, that we are working now with we're working within a political system within a political party.
It's like the CCP. It's the same way they work.
Yeah, we are. Well, we are one-party state at this point, I think, in many ways in Britain. In England especially, you are a one-party state at this point.
In each of the four nations is essentially... Well, I don't know about Northern
Ireland.
Well,
in Wales, we're a Labour one-party state.
Yeah,
Scotland, SNP one-party
state. Each of them have kind of split up into their own little one-party states.
This is why devolution's crap. But so when it comes to the Tory party and how you direct them, yeah, you need to Telegraph journalists, maybe a Times journalist.
I think the journalists have that much power, but it's probably true.
Spectator, well, because they have a feeling of tenure, because the MPs, right, are as thick as anyone else on the street. Many of them. Not to be mean to them. I know this is going to come back and bite me in the ass when eventually I want to become an MP, but the problem is they think like anyone else does, and they're going to see things in the news, and that's going to kind of cloud their opinion and make their opinion. And the thing is, the biggest Tory outlet is the Telegraph.
All opinions from most MPs come from think tanks. When you see on the news, expert says this, it's all think tanks. That is why I always say, when it comes to, if you want to push an agenda, you want to push a topic like section 127,
and make up some figures.
Go for a think tank. If you went for a think tank, you can get it into it goes to the public. I mean, ideally, your aim is you want it to go to the MPs, you want to go to the right people. If you go, if the think tank is influencing the wider public on this, then that's just an added bonus. Think tanks do work. I don't like think tanks. I think they've been really damaging to the country. It's a very Blairite thing, but it works.
That's lobbying. It's the way that's how lobbying works in the UK. Is through think tanks.
It's just how it works. So I would say lotus eaters, think tanks, local government.
Can you name any just for?
Hope Not Hate is technically a think tank. In some ways,
obviously not them. So
YouGov.
I reckon we should bring up Hope Not Hate and breathe down the phone at them.
You got a few. You got a few. Like a lot of the posters are all think tanks.
Okay, so essentially, set up a campaigning group, call it Abolish Section 127, get endorsed by think tanks, and then just harass the fuck out of the Conservatives.
Well, yeah, you get a load of nonsense polls about people. This many people support free speech, and it's the way you word the question to them.
I've actually just, Callum, I've just been having a look. So I will send you. I'll probably send you a couple names. First of all,
we play dirty.
We play dirty. First of all, so when it comes to freedom of speech stuff, the people who will come after you immediately when it comes to sexual is obviously the police. Okay, so who has ultimate local power of the police? It's the police and crime commissioners. Now, we're in a very opportunistic location, because where you are, where I am, we have Conservatives. Okay, we have Conservatives running the local police administration. So what do? We write to them. So you write to police and crime commissioners who are Conservative. There is, I'm going to be honest here, there's no point writing to Labour or Plaid Cymru or any other loser, police and crime commissioner. That's just not going to work. You always write to Conservatives. You get them on board. You get your local stuff on board, because when you do that, if anything, it was to say, let's say I put out a tweet and the police came knocking round, I could then, in theory, message my police and crime commissioner chap, and I just say, listen, this is what's happened. I told you about this. This is absolutely damn ridiculous. They are working part of the Fabians are trying to subvert via this, and they're using the police. This is ridiculous politicization of the police force. Okay, and then what you do is, because you build up that relationship, you wait to see what happens. Because
how many? I don't want to be thing AI, but how many MPs actually know about the Fabian Society? How many MPs do you think would know about it?
The older Conservatives.
No, but would say that class of 2016 who caused that ruckus, caused all that nonsense, would they have known about it? No.
No. They are mindless sheep largely.
Yeah. Callum, I just want to mention, when you talk about Andrea Leadsom, she almost became the PM. She was so close. It was only because the party made her stand down.
No. She did one fatal thing. She apologised, and again,
because she said Theresa May didn't have a child, and then she apologised for that, and she validated
the hostility towards on that thing. Rule one, you never apologize, even if you say something which you look back and you cringe at and you regret saying. You never apologize, because what you're doing is, when you apologize, you are allowing the media, who the enemy, the media is always the enemy, they always will be the enemy, to humiliate you in public, and you're allowing them to have power over you. You never apologize, no matter what it is. Don't apologize, because do you know what? When you watch Blair, the Dark Lord himself, when he is on Good Morning Britain recently or anything, when they criticize him on Iraq, if you notice, he's never apologized for it. He's never admitted any guilt, and he never allows the interviewer to put him in a position where he's made.
To be fair, the interviewer is a spin doctor.
Yes, yeah.
But the best thing here is just like the what would David Lammy do situation. Because remember, Iraq's serious. David Lammy said that, what was it? Jacob Rees-Mogg and the ERG are Nazis, and then asked about this, he doubled down and went, "Nah, actually, they're worse than Nazis. They're like super Nazis."
Yeah,
yeah.
If they can get away with that, you can do whatever you want. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. You have to. You have to
start calling them super Bolsheviks.
Well, yeah, something like that. But you have to have the mentality of us. Us. Every time you go out there and you have an interview, or every time you're in a debating hall, you have to think, how does this benefit us?
I always think we should just start a new Red Scare. When they go, "Oh my God, you're starting a new Red Scare," we just go, "Yes."
Yeah. But that's why I've adopted the position of saying, "Oh my God, the Conservative Party isn't accepting of the LGBT movement."
I just post a picture of Liberty Prime.
Exactly. That is exactly true.
It's not exactly true. Vote Conservative.
What an odd endorsement of the Conservative Party.
Yeah, and
we're literally in the UK right now. We are stuck in like a corner where we're stuck. Like, okay, we have to vote Tory, but because like the other option is a rainbow coalition of hell.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I am actually going to head off as well because I need to make some dinner.
All right.
Right.
Thanks for having me on, chat.
11 o'clock. Yeah,
that's all right. And I hope the information we gave you helped somewhat.
Will do. I do need to set up a campaign for Section 127, like just a thing that's like,
Have you told him about the project, AI?
I haven't told him about the project yet that we're working on. I think it's too early to be to talk about it. We still got stuff to work on it, but we'll let you know in due course.
Well, I'm going to keep listening. I just have to make dinner, so I don't really want to be on stream. So I'll be back in a minute. I'll be gone, really.
Yeah,
so
have a good night, Callum.
That's all right.
See you soon.
So that's effectively what I would recommend you to Callum and to people, the Lotus Eaters who might watch this. I would say just go for it. Find a think tank. Find several think tanks. I think also there is. I don't think you need the media. I don't think you need the press, the old legacy media. I don't see them as.
Well, if you can get a think tank to feed them information, then
you manipulate them the same way the left does. Look, the point we're in now is that we've got to create a new strategy. Like, obviously, the strategy we've been going with has done all right in terms of creating the kind of animosity towards the left as we thought.
As I was mocking earlier, it's the whole.
But they do that. The best thing about the left, and the only reason why the Conservatives are doing so well at the moment is because they're the ones that have created their own misfortune, because they behave like a bunch of psychopaths.
Yeah, well, some of the old Tories, I guess, maybe as well.
Oh, dude, some of the old Tories are so based. The oldest people. If you go to like a Tory meeting and talk to an old Tory, my God!
Yeah, I know.
You wouldn't believe it.
Is the best. The chairman of the party, like, this is the thing. One thing I did forget to mention: the average age of most party associations is 75, and that's not a joke. That, like, in my one, it's 78.
When I went to a meeting, right? I went to the meeting in Filton. Because I wasn't technically living there at that point, but I was invited as part of my Conservative group in uni, and I went there and I was sat on a table with a very nice old gentleman and his Russian wife. I know you'd think that, and they were based. Oh my God, they knew what was going on. This was for a MOG meeting. This was, and then I was with some other youth members of the party. and they were also, and to be fair, they were all. This is where I learned about how the youth is all massive Sargon watchers.
So why doesn't that trickle upwards?
It's trickling. It is slowly. This is why. This is what you're seeing.
The reason I explained was because of central office, because they choose. If there was a genuine, like, if central office didn't have the power of selecting MPs and they had to select from,
I don't think Kemi's there.
The associations, you would have, instead of Tobias Elwood, you would have like the councillors that Oh-wine has just said. You would have more Bill Cashes. You would have more Leadsom. So those are the sort of people you would have. You wouldn't have some careerist Etonian fuckwit who is.
Why do you think they move people around, like Simon Hart, who is the MP of West Pembrokeshire from Watford? It's because he's moved there to be a yes man. He's not a he's not a native. He doesn't know really much about the area. He's there to be an extra vote.
Because I'm just trying to kind of approach this like a sort of business problem. Like, you need to find blockers and deal with them.
The Conservative Party is a corporation. It's a corporation that needs, you need to take over.
You need to. I mean, there is. I mean, as I'm going to be
board of executives as well.
You need to purge the Conservatives, the academics from the Conservative Party. People who are in academia.
AI Shaitori says Pol Pot was right.
No, not necessarily AI. What you need to do is replace them with a lot of Douglas Murrays.
I know, but the problem is we haven't got Douglas Murrays at the moment because
you just go. Who you read the Spectator?
What? No, the thing that is, like, the people that I know who are like deep within the Scruton and the Douglas Murray.
That's what we need.
The Douglas Murray takeover. But they're not. They didn't, like, most of them that I talked to who've been that didn't go to university. They're not like the academia.
The worst thing about Scruton was that I love Scruton. I base a lot of my philosophy upon Scruton. He is probably the closest thing to what I will be when I'm his age, when I'm an older man. But the worst thing about Scruton is that I think he sat back too much. He laid too much sat back too much. I know he wrote the books and stuff like this, but he was a bit too niche. He didn't. I know is it Where We Are? He really did pitch his vision for Britain. It was a bit vague though. So you have to read the collection of his works to really get his vision for the country, and it's this kind of weird. It's a more positive version of what Hitchens tries to propose.
Yeah, it's a high trust society. Is what he
it's a neo-Burkean, I would call it.
Yeah, and neo-Burkean. It's all Burke's view on society, and I think the trouble with Scruton. I think there was multiple things. Number one, he didn't. And I've seen this with Charles Moore as well, and a lot of commentators on the sort of more. I don't want to say milquetoast right, because I don't. That's not a fair thing to say to them, because they are quite good in what they talk about. I think the problem is there is a you have to accept the generational gap. There is also a if you're brought up the sort of boomer and brought up in the post-war period, the things that were brought up around, you can't view it retrospectively from a neutral perspective. You view it. There's almost like a nostalgia, isn't it, for a lot of them to it, even though it may have been destructive in force. So that's why you have. I mean, maybe that's why you've had like so many sort of like the Conservatives have been very weak on the sort of sexual liberation, sexual the gay marriage stuff. There was a lot of weakness in that area.
Well, no, the issue with the Conservatives is that they, when it comes to that sort of stuff, they adopted the through Thatcher and the fall of the Liberal Party. They adopted a lot of the Liberal mantra, and that became a contradiction within the party itself, because the Conservative Party, like the same in Australia, but where Australia was the opposite around, where the Liberal Party absorbed the Conservative Party. Our Conservative Party absorbed the Liberal Party. And so that you end up then with the with the old order of the classical liberals and the conservatives coming into under one banner just to fight off socialism. But then within that party, when it comes to sexual liberation, for example, you get this massive contradiction between kind of the old religious, the old Whig versus Tory tendency. And so eventually it comes to a compromise, because this is what we have within the Conservative Party, and I think to a lesser extent in Australia with the Liberal Party, is that old fight between the Whigs and the Tories is still going on.
Yeah, it's still raging in their heads, while on the streets it's something they're miles away.
Well, yeah, because socialism is a plague. It's something that's alien to the English-speaking world.
It's alien, and it's why, like, I mean, this thing, like, this is where I would disagree, because I just seen the sort of video by Charles Moore. He was on New Culture Forum. I think it was New Culture Forum, and he was
collectivism is alien to the English-speaking world, or even the Celtic world. I'd say the Celtic Anglo world has been called before.
Yeah, it shows the Celtic world is quite susceptible to it. That's something that
it's susceptible to it because of the Irish. There's no the only reason is because the Scots and the Welsh project the Irish upon us. The Catholic Irish.
Say the Welsh. When I say the Celtic, I wasn't including the Welsh in that, because there is historical.
There is differences,
quite difference, because I mean, it's like why Wales voted for Brexit. Starkey did a very actually good analysis on that.
Well, yeah, it's because Wales is far more similar to the. It's a lot to do because Wales is far more Protestant than Scotland and Ireland.
Yeah,
Scotland, it's actually far more Protestant than even parts of England.
Certain parts definitely. And
so much so that we're actually very Puritan. Anyway,
but I was going to say with Charles Moore. He did a talk where he was trying to deconstruct and understand wokeism, what it generally means. And he said along the lines of, I don't believe wokeism and is a form of socialism. And it was really frustrating to watch, because he got the idea of identity politics. He got the idea of sort of collectivism, and then it just went right over his head. And I think the problem is he can't understand that the Marxists have evolved from just the class struggle. It's not about class struggle now. It's about race and identity struggle.
Not to go too deep into this, should we try and find what we're meant to be discussing? Because we're going to be on.
We discussed the Liz Truss one. We discussed the. I mean, it was Liz Truss and Stonewall, which we.
Liz Truss, by the way, should be given a high position in cabinet. End of, because she's done a fantastic job with the Brexit trade negotiations.
She's done very well, and her and Kemi have been very consistent.
Now Boris is sticking about. It seems it's going to be interesting.
It'd be interesting to see if Carrie.
He's going to keep win. He's going to win the next election, right? And he's going to win a majority again. But the problem is he won't do anything with it again.
Well, it depends what Carrie Antoinette tells him to do.
She'll let them eat plant-based meat.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, who would do anything with that majority?
I would. I would do a lot of things with that majority.
It depends. It's funny because you finally want a power-hungry guy. And he doesn't do any, and then you put a guy in charge of unlimited power, and he doesn't do anything with it. And you're like, wait, what?
My fucking total war autist mind is boggling that the fact that he's not using any sort of.
He's got political capital out of the wazoo, and he's not using it.
He could be the dictator of Britain right now. He could.
He is.
Yeah, but he could be absolutely fucking insane dictator levels and get away with it.
Like, I just don't get it. I don't know, man. It's something. There's something.
Well, I said this before, that at the end of the day, Boris just wants to be liked.
I think
this is it. It's the wrong person actually in the wrong place.
Like, he has a lot of bluster, and that's a lot of it. Boris like him.
Boris would have been a good prime minister in the early 2000s.
Well, Boris would have been good to prevent Blair.
He would have been a good prime minister at that time period. I don't think he was a good.
What we needed now, because anyone would have beaten Corbyn. What we need now is like maybe I don't know, an IDS. I don't know. Would IDS have done more?
I don't think Ian Duncan Smith would.
David Davis.
I don't think David Davis. I don't think. I mean,
none of those people who stood in for the election of the leadership would have done anything more. I think Rob might have done something, maybe.
I think Rob would have been quite a good one.
He's acting coach though.
Yeah,
he's always defensively based. Like somebody will question him and he will give an honest answer.
Yeah, he's not like aggressive.
He's not aggressive at all.
No, you need like aggressively based, like a Kemi. I mean, I swear, Kemi Badenoch. Like,
well, you think first Black Prime Minister, Kemi Badenoch?
I would go with it. I'd run with it. Jos, would you run with it?
I don't know. I need to see more of her.
Yeah, same.
I've only seen like 2 speeches.
I need to see her econ, and then I'll make a decision then.
Oh, forget the econ, guys. Let's be honest.
I always thought Cleverly would have been Prime Minister at some point, because I always felt like that Cameron was grooming him to be the successor.
I don't think he wants it. I don't think he wants it.
I always thought the party was. I always thought the party was grooming him to be the Black Prime Minister.
I'm just trying to. Apart from that, there's nobody in the party that I think that could take over.
Really?
It's like everywhere. There's just a crisis of not anyone is any good.
Gove really wants it though. Gove really, really wants it. He desperately needs.
He's gonna be a Gordon Brown though. He's literally gonna be a Gordon Brown.
Yeah, I mean that's why I when I said about the Cummings thing, why I wasn't particularly interested in it, is because I know that he met with Cummings. Gove met with Cummings like a week and a bit before, and was like, because they're friends. They're like friends. They're close friends. The wives are friends. They're all friends, and it's like Gove was publicly, politically assassinating Hancock on live TV, in front of the Senate. That's basically what happened.
Patel would be acceptable. But only because it would drive the left nuts.
Yeah,
that would be funny.
Yeah,
that would be that would be very sensible, because the Conservatives would hold the Hindu.
Rishi, Rishi wouldn't. I don't think Rishi would work.
No, he's not. No. He's an administrator. He's not a leader.
Javid is come and go.
Nah,
right. Who's that?
Sajid Javid.
No. He's endorsed Black Lives Matter. He's proven himself to be a complete midwit on most issues. He was good with Rotherham. He did, he tried to look into that, but I don't trust him. I don't
trust mine.
I don't trust any of them.
No, I think trust mine. Liz Truss would be decent.
Liz Truss, yeah. She probably.
She's a bit too smart. She's a bit too smiley and a bit too quiet. I don't think she could do the whole press the red button.
She needs to have like rhetoric coaching and sort of voice coaching.
To be fair, Thatcher had voice coaching and rhetoric coaching.
Yeah. The worst thing about Rob is he has the demeanor and he has like a kind of stature for it, but he doesn't have the personality.
Well, again, as I say, like he seems to have some good like opinions, but he just doesn't fight for them.
Yeah,
I get aggressive.
It really annoys me because he's so close to being that guy who could take it.
But overall, because obviously Callum was asking about how do like the likes of Lotus Eaters or even individuals
influence the party, become friends with your MP.
I mean, but
it's that simple.
We do have to look beyond MPs, because MPs are not the only players on the board.
But dude, it's in this country, it's who you know.
What is who you know? I've been thinking about this, and I know like
it's the more I learn as I grow up now. Is that the more and more I learn as I grow up? It's literally who you know. It doesn't matter so much. It's always who you know.
But I mean, I think it depending on the issue. Now, if you, Callum, if you're still listening, and you really wanted, Section 127 of the Community Act, you really wanted this to be pushed to the highest echelons, like the highest point. You find the Conservative Party donors, and they're actually very easy to find because they're all in the construction industry.
Yes, I was about to say that.
They're all in the construction industry. You write to them, you hit them where the money, you hit them in the money. Money shots, the money shot, and you hit them where it hurts.
That's why you you have your own wing of the party that has decent funding, which we'll expand upon further.
Well, we'll expand upon a bit further. I've my time today with AMC. Hopefully, I can have enough capital to do.
Well, no, but I've always thought that politics is a game of three different capitals. You've got education, social capital, which is kind of more word of mouthy, sort of the general opinion, and how much people are positive people are of you.
Media portrayal, you mean?
Yeah. And then you got economic capital, how well you're funded, how stable that funding is, and all that. And then you've got kind of more of a kind of acting capital. How well, how effective are you at campaigning?
Do you have a personality?
Do you have a personality?
Not just like do you have a personal personality? Like, do you have a persona?
These three capitals are then combined to eventually spent together to create an effective campaign and an effective outreach. And the left has the funding mainly because it's a monopoly on the unions, and the unions keep just paying the money.
And ultimately, I know that a lot of people don't like the term, but cathedral is what it is. It's a group thing. It's an accepted worldview of academics, of media, of think tanks. It's an acceptable worldview.
The genius of the left is that they've managed to regulate themselves into perpetual being.
Yeah, but the problem is their downfall is that the further they regulate themselves and they look inwards, the more isolationist they become.
That's why they've completely been distanced from the actual general populace and their opinions, because they're regulated into being, so they don't need the populace's opinion anymore.
And it's why I've said, I know the Republicans in the midterms are going to do extremely well. I'm certain of it, because I've noticed, especially in America, that the Democrats they've reached.
They can no longer fortify it any further.
They can't fortify. Well, no, because in states that were effective, they've actually, the Republicans there in Arizona and Wisconsin, they actually did what needs to be done, and they've rectified some of the practices there. Whereas, where from what I can see, it will make it extremely harder to do anything.
Can we get President DeSantis, please?
I think with DeSantis, one of the interesting things about him is, while he is like Trump, he's different in one way, because he's actually more than Trump.
I was just sat down here, right? We're talking about literally three people we've talked about today. The left talk about how the right hates ethnic minorities. We've talked about a Jewish guy, a black woman, and a Hispanic for president and prime minister. And then they're talking about Keir Starmer and Joe Biden. Oh my God.
Yeah, because
it's hilarious.
Well, it's because for them that they're social engineers. I mean, it's why you see like the Democrats, like with Biden, where he like, I shared that video of him, talking about, you turn on the TV and you see commercials of mixed race families everywhere, and it's like, who cares? I notice it. Everyone notices it, Joe. It's not
everyone
just
knows
you
it. And it's funny because everyone clearly notices it. And you sit there now, and my parents go like, "Why is there never a white family on the TV anymore?"
Yeah, it's like, who cares? People notice it, but the problem is they have to regulate themselves to an extent where they have to have the representation. Does have the sort of obsession of representation goes into a horseshoe where they have to then segregate. They have to segregate races, and so they end up becoming, like the Dixiecrats of old, or like Labour. They end up becoming like proto-fascists.
Just going to bring it back a bit here, because I kind of want to have an outsider's opinion, because we've prattled on about the Tory party, I think, quite a bit, and Jaws is an outsider.
I'm not fucking joining the Tories.
I know you're not.
Leave me alone. I'm not being recruited.
Go and join your pirate party, you fool.
Only through me can you achieve a power greater than any pirate.
Jaws, what do you feel what is your opinion on the capturing of the Tory party, and how could it be done?
I mean, as I said to you guys before, I think it's broadly the right strategy, because as I've said, it's essentially a CCP like one party state. I mean, obviously it's not exactly equivalent, but you get the idea, right? There's multiple factions within that one party that are vying for control of that one party and therefore the country. It's just that the people who always win never seem to do anything.
That's it.
I don't see that unless it is literally one of us, how you can get past the Tory whip thing. Because as I've said before, no matter who, well, exactly, no matter who does what, they always turn in lockstep and vote for the.
We got to go full kind of like Soviet style, you know, run with your gun, and I'll be running behind you, and I'll pick up your gun when you fall.
And that's why I said to Callum, and this is the thing I would say, if you people watching and Joz this to you, and also Callum and the people at Lotus Eaters, because I know that he sort of referenced it slightly. If you want to do the leap into a conservative association, so like your local association, infiltrate it,
don't use the term infiltration. It's not infiltration. Just join and influence it.
Join and influence. Open their eyes to.
Because we're not infiltrating, because we are in many ways conservatives. Yes. You know, we're just joining, which is what is meant to be our natural party.
Yeah. So you want to join and everything. That's fine. That's what I would say do. But there is things like, if you want to join, depending on where you live, watch out what association, because some of them are very, very paused. They are very, very hostile. So you have to watch that. I would say if you're living in North England,
running it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, who's running it? Yeah, I would say the ones to watch out for, which are sus, would be the ones in the southeast, metropolitan southeast. Those are the ones that I'd be sus.
If you want to talk about genuine infiltration, the left has genuinely infiltrated many of the associations, and they do run them.
Yeah, why don't we just all join Labour?
Well, you could easily probably in the north, Labour in the north, right? I think is ripe for a load of right wingers just to join them.
Yeah, I mean Wimbledon.
I really do think so. You can kick out a ton of people.
There's plenty of economic leftists slash like the sort of
I'm
like,
surprised.
I guess the more fashy end of the online community.
I'm surprised there's not parallel Labour associations haven't sprung up.
Because they're all fucking useless.
No, but like like current Labour associations, right? You have all their nonsense paused. You have all their nonsense left wing kind of pink-hairedness. I don't know why, like a load of old school miners or what have you have set up their own parallel Labour institutions and just said, "Look, we're going to put forward our own Labour candidate."
They joined the Brexit Party or the Conservative Party, though. Like Arthur Scargill, he joined the Brexit Party.
Because technically, the party can endorse two candidates, can't they?
Yeah, they can. I mean, you had George Galloway, vote Conservative and support the Conservative in Scotland. I mean, it's like,
he's a unionist in a very weird way.
He's a unionist, but he's a trade unionist. He is, this thing has created very strange alliances.
Man has a multiple personality disorder.
Yeah, and I do think there's been interesting changes there, and that's where. I'm going to wrap it up. I think in a minute because it's been going on for quite some time.
I am kind of falling asleep.
Yeah. And
I also need to go to bed.
And Royal Oak, Royal Oak's just coming. I've been in the Tory Party since 2019. Don't say anything stupid or be edgy, and you'll be all right.
Yeah.
It depends where you are in and who you're talking to. I think, don't think you're saying stupid. Yes, that's because you don't want to come across as a complete idiot and a moron, especially if you want to seek elected office and you want the respect of the members in your association. Yes, anything edgy. It depends setting and who you're around. Again, as I said, if you're in like the more paused London metropolitan areas, definitely. If you're in there and you want to join, and that's up to you. I wouldn't recommend it personally, though. I wouldn't recommend it at the moment because there is a lot of. I don't know if you could achieve much, to be honest. But if you do decide to join, hide your power levels. And to summarize all this, I would say, as I said. Change should be done via think tanks, should be done via local councils, because once you have the foundations, because I just wanted to say, you remember what happened with Theresa May? What brought her down in the end? It was when the party activists in the shires, in the working suburbs, when they refused to go out and campaign for her in the 2019 European election, and then said that they won't campaign for her in any council, any by-election, or even a general election until you go. That was really it for her, because there was a groundswell of movement to remove her. There was the MPs were indifferent with her. There was a good portion that wanted her to stay, but when that happened with the party membership, it became clear to every MP that she couldn't, even like her closest allies, she couldn't stay. It was that was a realpolitik moment where there was no way for her to continue. So that does work. You can achieve something because we've seen it. We know it happens. So yeah, that's what think tanks, people who finance the party, follow the money, and the local party associations, finding the right people in the chairmans and the council people and the council leaders and police and crime commissioners, people with power. That's it, because you have to think along power lines, power dynamics. That's how you have to think about this. And once you do, you'll find it. You'll see things change, and you'll see wider discussions, because that's how you get it. And then the knock-on effect, as I said, is then through the think tanks and such, through the quote-unquote, because this be our experts, these are our guys, our experts here, it will then relay itself into the public sphere, and then the public talk about it, and then the public get a greater awakening on what wokeism is, what race communism and sexual identity communism really is. Then they understand it, and then they're more equipped to deal with it, and then the party has to adapt because of that. And that's what and that's what needs to happen, and that's what can happen. I think it is an achievable thing.
Yep. Yeah, I would give my final thoughts, but I'm very tired and I need to go to bed.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
Same.
But so that's my final thought. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Callum, for joining. Thank you, Oh-wine and Joz, for joining. Quite short notice stream. Hopefully this has answered a couple of people's questions.
I must say that in the future, ladies and gents, I'll be honest, I'm going to be a bit more sparse than I'm usually now going forward. I have my life IRL is becoming very hectic.
Yeah. I also want to just say channel information thing. Some of you might have noticed that some of the previous Blob Watchers have been unlisted, privatized. There is a reason for that, and there's a person I used to stream with back, because now my channel's a year old, by the way, everyone. It's the Blob Watch is a year old, so celebrations around and everything. Person I used to stream with right back along, right in the early days, he is taking a job, and likewise, he didn't want to be identified, so that's been anything revolving around him or mentions to him have been sort of scrubbed temporarily for the moment. We'll see what happens in the future, but yeah. So there are several
to AA. I think his putting behind the paywall is a very good idea in that respect.
I'm actually thinking of doing at some point maybe a paywall thing, but I don't think my channel's large enough to do that.
No, maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. But
it's a good idea though.
But the thing is, you got to think to yourself. Maybe it's worth just getting rid of the videos anyway, because who's watching them back after? Like if they're current affairs, But anyway, yeah.
I like those episodes because some of them, when I talk about Black Lives Matter and a few other things, looking like a year on, I've sort of like. I said a year ago, Black Lives Matter, saying, "Oh, when it's the year anniversary, it's going to come to UK and it's going to be like involved."
We all know AI. This chance getting yeeted as soon as you become a councillor.
Oh yeah, when I become a councillor, I will probably delete social media, and I'd probably hide everything behind private unlist everything, and of course I'd unfriend all of you in any other sort of social media.
But in all seriousness, genuinely, that come it's like, ladies and gents, just like it's things. Well, as we keep going on in time, things are going to get a bit more sparse as like all of us lads start progressing in our fields. Sadly, but that's just part of reality. Anyway, enjoy this while we're here.
Can I go to bed yet?
Yes, you can go to bed now.
Woo.
Yeah. I tell you what, as a stream point that can go down like for future reference, if I ever make it on TV and I'm on TV or at like a Pike conference where I'm speaking TV, I will hold a Roger Scruton book, and I will hold it in a particular way where I'll hold the index towards the camera, and then you know that's me. Okay, that's a promise.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.